Hello and welcome to Maximum Foods Inside Track. Kids back to school, we're well into 2024 now. I hope everyone's had a great start to the year. Let's have a look at the dairy industry. Starting off with whole milk powder. So yeah, an interesting result last night on the GDT across all the commodities. The NZX and futures market were predicting a relatively flat result. We saw an increase on whole milk of 3.4%, which was above expectations. Milk flow in New Zealand has been good, especially on the shoulder of the season, defunking all the El Nino predictions earlier in October. So milk has been good, therefore it was a reasonably bearish outlook for whole milk. So it was a surprising result that we did see an increase. In terms of a short-term outlook, although production is pretty good, the Middle Eastern demand and North Asian demand has been holding up for whole milk, so we should see a reasonably bullish outlook for the next 3 months. Moving across to skim milk powder. So I do give skim milk a bit of a hard time. It's always saying that it's uneventful and a pretty boring commodity, but we did see a bit of a jump last night on the GDT, so a bit of action. In the EU, pricing has remained stable. In the US, much the same, but we did see some activity last night on the GDT, which has breathed a bit of life in the skim market. North Asia showed up to the auction, resulting in that lift. Will it be short-lived? Not too sure, but it is a positive result for skim manufacturers. Having a look at butterfat, if we look at it at a global scale, in the US things still finely balanced, some good domestic demand holding pricing up. If we look over in the EU, bullish conditions, we've seen a bit of an up and down scenario there, but things are still, demand is still outstripping supply over in Europe, so pricing is still healthy. If we look over in Australia and New Zealand, yeah, really surprising result last night on the GDT. So a 10% lift in butter, which was unexpected, and a 4% lift in AMF. Yeah, butterfat has been in good demand, North Asian demand, Middle Eastern demand holding up quite well, and that train just keeps on rolling on in terms of GDT pricing. Where the top will be is the big unknown, of course, but we are seeing at the top of 5-year averages. So yeah, very bullish at the moment. Supply down from New Zealand and demand up, but yeah, will these high prices burn off demand, and will we see that come back in the next 2 to 3 months is the unknown. Having a look at sweet whey and proteins. Sweet whey reasonably balanced in demand. Globally, we're seeing prices relatively flat and a flat outlook for the next 3 months. On proteins, similar story of the last 2 to 3 months. WPI in particular continues its bullish run. WPC seems to have settled a little. Supply coming back in reasonable levels, but it's still at well above sort of 5-year averages. So yeah, we don't expect to see any real price relief in the next 3 to 4 months on the protein side of things. Finishing off with cheese, so if we look on a global scale again, in the US, pricing still reasonably bearish. Some good production of mozzarella is keeping pricing reasonably flat. In the EU, a bit more bullish conditions over there towards the end of their season in the EU, so less milk, demand holding up, so pricing reasonably firm. If we look over in Australia and New Zealand, it's a bit of more of a complicated story. In Australia, with some good cheese production at the end of last year, start of this year, supply seems reasonably good for Australian cheese, and demand for retail is waning a little, probably with a bit of inflation inflationary pressure. Similar story in New Zealand as well. So supply across Australia and New Zealand quite healthy for cheese, and demand reasonably flat. So some good value in Australian and New Zealand cheese in the next 2 to 3 months. Thanks very much for listening to today's Inside Track. The ladies in the office have sent a reminder that it is Valentine's Day, apparently next Wednesday, so do whatever you need to do for that, or don't. And have a great fortnight, and look forward to seeing you soon.